Let's talk about flow types. We have the first one, a screen flow, which is a form. And we use this whenever we need to collect user input. An example would be a volunteer application form. We also have a record triggered flow, which is a flow that would run on create, on update, on delete of a record. An example would be whenever we receive a donation from a donor, send them a thank you email. We also have a schedule triggered flow, and this is a flow that could run on daily basis, weekly, monthly, or yearly. An example here would be whenever we need to go through all the donations in the system every day to check if there is an expected donation today, where the status is still unpaid. If that's the case, send a reminder email to that donor. We also have auto-launched flows. And auto-launched flows and subflows, these two terms, auto-launched flows, subflows, I will be using them interchangeably because the main way I use auto-launched flows is to create subflows. And let's look at an example first, and then we'll look at these uses. If you have a screen flow in which you have a ton of logic, you're getting some elements, you are looping through, you're getting some records, you're looping through them, you're performing some assignments and updates, and a ton of logic is going in there. And you want to make it clearer and easier to read. You could take some logic and group them together in one subflow or auto-launched flow. And then you take some other group of logic and then you group them together into one subflow. When you do that, you can have these subflows being reusable in other flows. You're grouping the logic together. It's easier to read now. You're reducing that clutter, and it's easier to debug these subflows because you can just debug or troubleshoot one subflow at a time to make sure that it is working correctly instead of having to debug a fairly large flow. The last type is a platform event triggered. And that platform event triggered flow is a lot like a record triggered flow. Both of them run whenever a record of an object gets created. Record triggered flows run whenever a record of an object gets created. Platform event triggered flows would run whenever a platform event gets created. And a platform event is like an object. What makes platform event triggered flows distinct is that they run asynchronously. We'll talk about what that means later. For now, let's just know the use cases in which we would use a platform event triggered flow. These are whenever we have an external system that is communicating with Salesforce. That external system is going to create a platform event which triggers platform event triggered flows. Another use case is when we have when we need to update two objects of one of them is a setup object and the other one is a non-setup object. Setup objects are like users, permission sets, profiles, permission set assignments. All of these are setup objects. Non-setup objects are the usual contacts, accounts, opportunities, and custom objects. So if you're trying to, if you're attempting to update a user record and a contact record in the same transaction, we'll talk about what transaction means later, but if you try to do that, you're going to get an error. And this is one of the cases where you would use a platform event trigger. There's other ways to solve this as well. And this is less common. The first four, screen flow, record triggered flow, schedule triggered flow, and auto launched flows, are the big ones, and these are flow types.